So, one of the hot topics for SEO right now is QBRs. It's the new year and everybody has a bright outlook on life that they're going to get QBRs this year because the latest business book told them to do it. And it's just that important.
Yep. And you got to have your TLAs going.
However, TPS
No, your
reports.
TLAs. Come on, your three-letter acronyms.
Oh, it's like we want to put a little bow on everything because we want it to be easy because we are modular thinkers. Everything's IEEE, everything's RFCs, and we have these really easy ways to put things. But when people are like, "Well, what's wrong? Why am I not engaging with my clients?" Like, well, you need to meet regularly with your clients and talk to them about what you can do. And I'm like, well, yeah, well, what does that look like? And then so like all the business coaches out there, basically like over time, I was, well, why don't we just do QBRs but for MSPs, because that's a normal thing to do in a corporation is you have a quarterly review. You have a quarterly touch point with your department or with your company. And why not do that as technology? And it's like, yeah, sure. But then got lost in translation. Suddenly we had a box. We put things into this box and we forgot the why of the box. And so MSPs being the people they are and technical people being who they are, took this beautiful idea of talking to a business about their business once a quarter, just to kind of get a nice baseline, and turned it into a QTR.
Yeah. Yep.
This idea that you would talk about technology once a quarter, and that meant talking about what tickets were opened, talking about the newest firewall release, and talking about patching and Windows 11 and servers. And you know what? The businesses are being coached by people saying, you need to care about your technology more.
Yep.
And so they're sitting there trying
Yeah.
desperately to
Trying to
listen to
learn.
you.
Yeah.
They know it's important and you're throwing a ton of stuff at them that's simple for you and really complex for them. And the conversation kind of started going one way after a while. So now people go up to these QBRs and they're actually QTRs, quarterly technical reviews, where you're trying to teach technology to a business once a quarter. And that has nothing to do with a QBR, where you're supposed to be going in once a quarter and listening to your client tell you about their business.
Now, so
And
there.
the reason you want to listen to tell about the business is, and Skip's going to go off on it here
Well,
probably.
no. So you've really hit on something there. The quarterly technical review and teaching our clients about technology. And now this is not as black and white as I would like to make it because it makes a better talking point. But so I acknowledge that, but there is been a trend over many, many years that we've fallen into where we have become we feel like we have to teach our customers all about technology, explain how VLANs work, or come on, I've been in the meeting where people have tried to, in simple terms, but still tried to describe variable length subnet mask to customers. Why? Why would you do that? And so we need to get out of that role. There's got to be a level of education where our customers, understand generally what we're going to do. But if you're showing up and educating your clients on technology, you're missing the boat. And there's another.
Do you understand?
Go ahead.
Like say, do you understand how your HVAC system works? Yeah, you have a high level
Basically,
concept,
yeah.
but off the top of your head, you could not tell me how many BTUs it is. You cannot tell me how the heat exchange works. You can't give me a direct. If I pointed to a line in that HVAC system, you probably could not tell me what chemical is in that line and what it's doing.
And you don't need to.
You generally know that it's a heat exchange. Is it a heat pump? Is it a ground source? Is it an air source? Is it using alternate fuels such as propane or natural gas? You don't care. Is your house
Yeah,
warm?
that's it. That's it.
Is it cold? Right now, I care very much that my house is warm. I'm
Yeah.
in Nebraska, and let me paint a picture to you for you Southerners. I have a heated mattress, and I have a very thick down comforter. and I still need to put a quilt on top of that to seal in the warmth,
Just
and then I need to make sure the HVAC system is working to stay warm at night. So I have these pieces all together right now that keep me warm and allow me comfortable sleep at night. Do I know how to make the quilt? No. Well, technically, yes, my mother was a quilter. But could I make the quilt? No. Do I know what kind of stitching is there? No. Do I know what fabric it is? It's fireproof. And so you keep going down this list, but like, what do I care about? I care that I'm warm. I care that the system is working. And if the system stops working, I'm an engineer, so I'll figure it out if I have to. But I'm going to call the HVAC guy and say, "Hey, can you come in and fix this?" And I don't need him to explain to me. He might say, "Hey, this part broke. I'm going to replace it." Will that fix the issue? Yes. Okay. Just give me the bill. He's not going to sit down and explain to me every once in a while they try this. They'll explain to me detail about how this little piece of my furnace works, and they really get diving down to it. But in the meantime, I'm trying to like think I got to get back to work. I've got to get upstairs and cook dinner for my kids. I've got to manage this household. I don't need an hour long lecture on how this particular item works. I just need to know, will it fix the problem? And that's where QBRs are. You should be learning about like what is it that your client needs from a business standpoint so you can solve the technology problems on the back end. They don't need to know how the hot dog is made. Or is that the right phrase, Skip? You, you're
yeah.
the skipism guy.
Oh yeah.
They don't need to see and understand every
See what
component.
goes
Some of
into the
them
back
do.
end.
Some of them
Yeah.
are naturally curious. Yeah, yeah. You want to see that this problem is solved. Are they able to work from home now? Maybe that's their biggest problem right now. Are they able to live stream events? Are they able to do e-learning or telehealth? What is the thing that they need to do? Are they prepared for their new EHR that's coming in? These are the things they care about. They don't care whether they're on Windows 10 or Windows 11. That's what you care about. And it's easy to get lost in the technical review because that's your life. That's what you do every day. And you're passionate about it. And if you ever talk to somebody who has a trade or a passion, they love talking about the details. And you talk to somebody who, in their context, whether it's my wife talking about her pharmacy during the day, I love you, dear. I try really hard to pay attention, but use big words. And you guys all started to talk about this on the podcast before. It's
Yep.
like, I'm an intelligent person, I swear. And like I'm trying to pay attention. And these are important things. These are things that save people's lives. And I'm having a hard time paying attention because it's not my context. My brain is having to form new neurological pathways just to absorb this information. Your clients are doing the same thing when you're talking to them about VLANs and subnetting and CIDR notation and talking about IPv6 versus IPv4, talking about next gen, whatever. And they're just like, will it keep me safe? Will it help my business function? And that's the goal of a QBR. Will it? Do you even know as the account manager? You know that this will improve the workstation. You need to get them from Windows 10 to Windows 11 because it's end of life and you've got to do this thing and it'll make your job easier and everybody will get patches and be more secure. But that doesn't improve business functionality. It reduces a risk
Yeah. Well,
and a risk only you know about.
here's a key indicator. So look at your previous QBRs or the expectations that are out there. Who shows up? Who goes to your QBRs? If you have an entire team of people that go and attend the QBRs, or even it requires a whole team of technical people doing a significant amount of work to prepare for the QBRs, you've got the wrong focus. So I've got a perfect example of mine. I won't share too many details here, but I was sitting in the boardroom of a bank. Now, this is not a huge bank, but geographically, they were kind of a big one. For reference, they had about 900 billion in assets. So that, if you're working in the banking industry, that gives you, an indication what size they were. We're sitting with the COO of the bank. All right. Very senior position. We've got the account manager. we've got the team lead, we've got the MSP's team lead on their technical team. We've also got the kind of chief technology officer, and we've got a technical sales role in this meeting, and I'm following along just to walk along. So there's 5 of us, 4 or 5 of us from the MSP showing up for this, and we are going over pages and pages of information, tickets, log files, all this kind of stuff. And all of these people had to show up to this QBR because there was so much technical content. The account manager couldn't handle it. They needed to bring in these resources because they didn't know the answer to the question. And the meeting, in my perspective, from strategy and business perspective, was very, very unproductive. So I'm trying to figure out how we're going to change this. Why do we need to roll so many of the MSP's team out to a meeting that was scheduled for 1 hour that ended up running 2 hours, and we didn't, that's billable time that wasn't billed. It was just too much work, and this is the issue that so many MSPs run up against with their QBRs. They take so much time and so much energy, and they don't get a lot of value out of it because it was technical.
And we have a podcast out there. I need to look it up. It's operations versus strategy. Highly recommend if you don't understand the concept here, go check out our operations versus strategy podcast. We have an entire segment dedicated to this. And it's the reason why this is kind of a two-part episode of putting the B back in QBR is because there is a problem and there is a way to solve it. And the core of the problem is, and it's not MSP's fault. I'm not blaming you guys here. It's that a lot of people have never been in a boardroom or in a situation where they had to act in a CIO role. And that moment where you acting as a CIO for the first time is a very much an aha moment.
It is.
And that happens when you get pulled into a VP's office and they ask you the question like, okay, I had this idea.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
I think I think people would be it would be really cool if we could have people track their time automatically by their fobs. Can we do this? And then you're sitting in there thinking like, I don't know, but it makes sense that it would. Let me look into that. I think I can figure that out. Now, what the consultants out there will tell you is that in order to be a CIO, you need to understand business process analysis. You need to understand KPIs and have read multiple theory books, maybe even have an MBA. That is not
No.
the truth. It is helpful and it will help
Yes.
you understand and create better processes. But a CIO is a chief information officer or a CTO, chief technology officer. Your job is to translate a business question into a technology solution. A tier one tech can do this. A tier three tech can do this. All it takes is a translation of the conversation. Now, if you're in a meeting like Skip's talking about, and you've got all your technical resources in front of you and you're trying to coordinate activities, that is an operations meeting.
Yes.
That is tactical.
Very much.
As a tactics meetings. You're trying to figure out which project do we do when? When do we upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11? When are we going to upgrade from Windows 11 to whatever's next? When are we upgrading from Server 2000, like tactics meeting, NT to 2000, 2000 to 2003, whatever it is? You're talking about technology. Should we go with VoIP? That starts becoming a business question, but it's still technology. It's just a phone system. You're creeping into, okay, now that we can do VoIP, how do we do our calling trees? Now you're starting to talk business process analysis, which is still tactics and operations. The actual question is there a way for us to scale call centers?
There we go.
That's the
Yep.
business question. That's the QBR. This is why you only have these once a quarter because the resources necessary to run a QBR are highly valued. I just tried to schedule a meeting with one of my friends, and he's pretty high up in the government, and I'm picking his brain on economics. And it takes me 6 weeks to get a interview or a time slot where we can sit down and just chat. And this is a friend of mine. Imagine like you're talking to a business How are you going to get time with them? You say, hey, look, I only want 1 hour of your time once a quarter. Now, what do you need to know? If you're going to turn that into a sales meeting, now you're in tactics again.
Yep.
No, you're not even in tactics. You're in a sales meeting. If you're in a tactical meeting, you should be meeting with your internal engineers and possibly one key stakeholder from the company.
Yep. Well, and this is
That CIO is meeting once a quarter because the resource they need to talk to, they need to gather as much information about the state of the business so they can bring it back to the tactical team and say, here are the problems we need to solve. We should start chewing on this so we can kick back a solution to our client at the next meeting.
Yep. Well, and this is where MSPs are really struggling, and it's not, and you're right, it's not necessarily their fault. It's the expectations. So, I know when I gave that example of all these technical people rolling out to a QBR, and I know there's lots of MSPs out there going, or especially account managers out there going, I have to take someone. I don't know the answers. All right. And the reason you have to take someone is because the expectations for that meeting have gotten skewed. It's been warped over time. And you may have been handed that, that it's not necessarily your fault. That's just what it is today. And so we've really got to change the expectations on those engagements. Some of you are saying, and kind of follow up to Adam, what you're saying there about getting that executive level, that high level person to attend those QBRs. They don't want to show up, and you're like, I can't get that person into the room. Well, you're right, because they were in the room at some point in the past. Maybe it wasn't with you, maybe it was a previous company, but they showed up and they looked around, they listened to the conversation, and they were like, this is not for me, and they bailed.
This is a waste of my
Yes,
time.
that's it exactly. So you're going to have to set expectations and shift those conversations. And if you may end up getting into some technical stuff, but if you start with all of the business stuff, more likely than not, you're going to not leave time for the technical stuff in that QBR. We'll talk about it at other times, but it's going to be business related, and that's what's going to be engaging with your clients.
And a lot of you have discovered this little truth in that the there is an advantage to the person running your QBRs not being technical because they won't get lost in the weeds and they'll stay focused on the business. And I get lectures all the time that Adam Walter, you need to make sure that your a CIO has to have a deep technology understanding across a wide variety of fields. I'm like, no. For years, some of the most successful companies, their CIO was an accountant.
Hmm.
I'm
That's right.
sorry
Yep.
there were no CIOs, or the CIO role was filled by finance people or a salesperson because who was rising through the corporation because the technology people had not matured to that level yet. The degrees had just come out in the 90s, people. Like they just started there. There was no one who had the level of thinking that they needed for a CIO. So we saw these 20 something CIOs. We saw people from finance divisions, controllers come in and be CIOs. They didn't know technology that deep. They were entry level, but they were able to shape the company and shift it in ways that affected it forever. So there's a reason why in a QBR your people, as Skip said, are not attending. It's because they showed up and said, this meeting is a waste of my time. They don't need my knowledge here. They need to know technical stuff. I'll send in Sherry. She's really great on how operations run in our company and can answer these questions. You've all, as engineers, at least uttered that phrase once. This meeting is a waste of my time.
Yes. Yes.
Sitting in that
Yes.
meeting, I know the people listening to this MSP, this podcast. This meeting is a waste of my time. Why was it a waste of your time? Because no one asked you questions and they didn't use your knowledge. So therefore, you do not need to be there as an engineer. It is a waste of an engineer's time to be put into a personnel meeting.
Yes.
And so strip them out. Let them go do billable hours. It is a waste of an engineer's time to be in a QBR. They should be out serving tickets. They should be fixing things and troubleshooting things that no one else can do. That's what they do. The person in a QBR needs to be somebody who can talk to your client and extrapolate from them knowledge that only they have. and be able to take good notes and bring that back to the technical team and say, here are the things that they care about. What is possible for us to do? And that's where you start engaging all your projects. Like, you don't need to sell individual projects, you need to sell business solutions. And we'll talk about that in this next episode. We're going to do a two-parter here.
Yep.
But the problem today is you're doing QTRs. Some people even call them SBRs, but they're not even an SBR because the B isn't there,
Right.
people.
Yep.
It's got to be a business review, not a technical review. And a business review focuses on your client and their knowledge and extracting out of them what it is that they need to do. And in the next episode, we're going to talk about how to do that effectively.
That sounds good.
Thank you, Skip.
You bet.
And we'll see you on the flip side.
All righty.